outrage over the chokehold death of Jordan Neely intensifying this weekend.
Say his name!
Calling for criminal charges in the case and better city support for mental health, protesters clashed with the NYPD and spilled onto subway tracks. A train scene stopped just down the line.
Until we see justice and accountability, we will be out here. We will be online.
He was murdered because he was poor. He was murdered by the system.
The MTA called the track takeover, which led to more than a dozen arrests Saturday, dangerous and reckless. Playing out nearly a week since this minutes-long deadly struggle on the subway. The rider holding Neely in the chokehold that authorities say killed him was questioned by police, but not charged. Lawyers identifying him as 24-year-old college student and Marine veteran Daniel Penny. They say he, with the help of others, acted to protect themselves, adding he never intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his untimely death. Several 911 callers that day reported Neely had been making threats, according to a source. The 30-year-old Michael Jackson impersonator was homeless and had struggled with mental illness since his mother's brutal murder in 2007, according to his family's attorney. Police say he had 42 prior arrests.
Even to say who he was as a person and what his history is, it had nothing to do with this incident. So what we're asking is, why did Daniel Penny get the benefit of doubt? We know for a fact that he killed Jordan Neely. If there's a defense to it, charge him and let him bring that defense.
Emily joins me now from the subway line where the deadly confrontation happened. Emily, we could still see charges emerge in this case, right?
Kate, that's right. The Manhattan District Attorney does plan to present the case to a grand jury, according to two sources familiar with the matter. That will determine whether charges are brought against Penny. Meantime, tonight, police are still looking to track down 6 more protesters who helped temporarily shut down a subway line in this weekend's demonstrations. Kate?
Tonight, the stunning video just released of former President Trump's deposition in a civil trial. His testimony played for the jury, considering writer E. Jean Carroll's allegations in her civil lawsuit that he raped her and defamed her. His strong denial and what he says about Carroll, a photo with her and his wife, and an infamous comment he once made about women. The Supreme Court puts the execution of an Oklahoma death row inmate on hold. My interview with Richard Glossip was set to be his last. Instead, relief for supporters who say his trial was unfair. Their reaction the moment the news came in. The war in Ukraine, why a Russian mercenary group is threatening to quit fighting in a key city. Its ultimatum to Russia. Is the U.S. ready for more migrants expected to come to the southern border? We put the question to the Homeland Security Secretary. More good news about jobs, but the new warning from President Biden about a potential government default. Will birth control pills soon be available over the counter? The FDA set to consider it. And the coronation of King Charles, now just hours away. Thousands filling the streets for a royal ritual not seen in 70 years.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Former President Trump has not testified in the civil lawsuit in which a writer accuses him of raping her more than 20 years ago and then defaming her by saying she made up the allegation. But today, a video deposition given by Mr. Trump was made public for the first time. In it, the former president strongly denies the accusation. Intense questioning. Trump was also asked about comments he made about women and that infamous Access Hollywood tape that came to light before the 2016 election. It's where we begin tonight with senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett.
Tonight, former President Donald Trump seen under oath, blasting the rape accusation against him from writer E. Jean Carroll.
She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue.
Released publicly for the first time today, Mr. Trump's deposition in a civil case. Carroll is suing him for allegedly defaming her. She says he raped her in a department store dressing room more than 20 years ago.
It's the most ridiculous, disgusting story. It was just made up. If it did happen, it would have been reported within minutes.
This week, a jury in Manhattan watched clips of the deposition, Carroll's attorney turning the focus to that now infamous Access Hollywood tape.
You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the...
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the... You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by.
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
Mr. Trump had repeatedly said Ms. Carroll was not his type.
It's not politically correct to say it, and I know that, but I'll say it anyway.
But then he mistook Carroll for his ex-wife, Marla Maples, when shown this old photo of him shaking Carroll's hand.
I don't even know who the woman. Let's see. I don't know who. It's Marla.
You're saying Marla's in this photo?
That's Marla, yeah. That's my wife.
Throughout the deposition, Mr. Trump steadfastly denying Carroll's accusation and going after Carroll's attorney.
You know it's not true, too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace.
Later, turning to her physical appearance.
You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you.
Laura, this is the only time the jury is going to actually hear from Mr. Trump.
Right, Lester. Mr. Trump's attorneys opted not to put on a defense case. The judge is giving the former president until 5 p.m. Sunday to change his mind. If not, closing arguments are expected on Monday. Lester?
Thank you. Just hours from now, something that Britain and the world have not seen in 7 decades, the coronation of a new British monarch. Keir Simmons is watching it all for us from London.
The night before the biggest day of his life, King Charles smiling and laughing. Palace officials say he's shown no sign of nerves. Today, the Princess of Wales pictured with 2 first ladies, Jill Biden and Ukraine's Elena Zelenska. The King, William and Catherine greeting the public earlier. The Princess asked how the children are feeling. Prince George will be a page of honour tomorrow.
Excited, a bit nervous, obviously with a big day ahead, but no, can't wait actually.
Even taking a cell phone to console someone's American relative too ill to make it.
But I hope you get better soon.
The crowds are already camped along the world-famous Mall for a glimpse of history tomorrow morning. At 5:20 Eastern, a small procession will leave Buckingham Palace with the King to Westminster Abbey. Then a solemn service, not seen this century, will commence. The moment of crowning is expected around 7 a.m. Next, a breathtaking spectacle. From the Abbey, a 4,000-strong military parade will escort the King along this route.
And he will not answer questions about why.
But polls show enthusiasm for the monarchy waning, and protesters will be out too.
I think the monarchy's in a lot of trouble because they've lost their star player.
The King is looking to answer those critics by combining tradition with change tomorrow. Manju Mali, a chef, has been invited for her charity work.
I feel included and very inclusive and part of British history, being a daughter of an immigrant.
Meanwhile, Prince Harry is here in London tonight. He will not play a formal role tomorrow, but Buckingham Palace is not saying who will appear on the famous balcony behind me. They say we'll find out when it happens. Lester?
Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is your brother, Quadov GMS Gulf Coast. And I'd like to start by giving infinite honor and praise to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Rakak Qudash. Double honors are given up to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice, as well as a shalom to the hopefully elect, 1/3 of the nation of Israel, bishop elders of GMS, elders, heads of camps. Last but not least, I'd like to send a shalom to any of you Akim not named GMS, but walk in one spirit, one body, and Yahweh Shai preaching and teaching is 100% truth to you all, shalom. As we, select first and foremost, Abaratazah, Lord's will this be edified, and straight into the, the crux of this video. Lord willing, it doesn't be long, but Lord will it be edifying. Subject matter is just the distractions, the heavy things that are happening on planet Earth, as they have been for the past, 10 years or so. But as we get closer and closer to the birth of the kingdom of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, the heavenly kingdom being birthed here on earth, as we get closer, things get more and more chaotic. You know, it gets worse and worse for the ruling factions, you know. But they play these things out as you see them on TV, you know, as though there's really nothing happening. You know, business as usual. You know, the crowning of a king, something that hasn't been seen in over 7 decades, you know. It's like a ex-U.S. president being brought up on multiple, if not numerous charges, you know what I'm saying? One here being an accusation of rape. Another is this Jake gets choked out in a New York subway a few days back, you know what I'm saying, around a whole subway car full of witnesses, you know. No one steps in to intervene. And actually the Esau, the so-called white boy that choked him out, had help, you know, murdering this particular man. We're going to call it what it is. Anyway, having said that, these are full-blown distractions. Yes, I said it. They're full-blown distractions because these are just things to keep you preoccupied. It's like eye candy. You know how you go and look at what they call window shopping. You ain't got the money to purchase, but you're sitting here fantasizing. You're caught up in the glamour. And that's what these things are set up for. Get caught up in the moment. The crowning of once was Prince Charles, now King Charles. And headline news is this Jake getting choked out on a subway in front of a subway car full of witnesses, and the perpetrator only gets questioned and released. And ex-President Donald Trump, you know, being brought up on these clown charges. Me personally, I don't think nothing's gonna come of it. But hey, what do I know? But I in the spirit believe that these are distractions. Why did I believe that? Check this out.
We have breaking news this lunchtime. Russian officials have said that Ukraine tried to... We have breaking news this lunchtime. Russian officials have said that Ukraine tried to attack the Kremlin with drones, alleging that it is a terrorist act and underlines their right to respond. Well, we're joined now by former Air Vice Marshal Sean Bell. And Sean, we're getting reports now, a video on Russian social media apparently showing a plume of smoke over the Kremlin. What do we know about what's happened?
Well, as ever, Jane, we're in an information war at the moment, so details are very sparse. Apparently, 2 drones were attacking the Kremlin last night, but it's very difficult to tell exactly what has happened. After all, there's an information war going on. Ukraine has made clear that they've been doing attacks in an asymmetric approach, but tend to be targets just over the border into Russia, nothing quite as outrageous as this. But it is worth pointing out that Moscow has been preparing lines to take in the event that Ukraine does gain some ground on its forthcoming spring offensive. And there are a lot of commentators that believe that Moscow will launch a few sort of false flag incidents inside Russia to focus Russian domestic audience on the fact that Russia needs to protect its own people, and therefore almost justifying, whilst it isn't so successful in Ukraine, because actually it's protecting its own forces. But the truth is, at the moment, Ukraine is doing lots of activity with drones. We've seen the fire just the other day at Sevastopol. There's another fire overnight just to the east of the Kirks Bridge, which looks like it was a drone attack. And likewise, there was a rail train in Russia was derailed just near Belgorod, apparently, very recently. So there's lots of asymmetric attacks, but it does feel odd that Ukraine will be so audacious as to mount something in Moscow. I'm sure more details will come out. We'll get it to you just as soon as...
Guys, I have breaking news. Russia just claimed that Ukraine attempted to assassinate Vladimir Putin with a drone strike attack last night in Moscow. Footage shows 2 separate drones being destroyed approximately 16 minutes apart, and this is being labeled as an act of terrorism against the Kremlin. The president of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, has denied any kind of involvement, saying that they fight this war on their own territory, and that they did not attack Putin or Moscow. And now the Russians are threatening nuclear retaliation for this alleged attack, which Zelensky claims he didn't do. I want to jump right to the chase and remind you of the recently leaked Pentagon documents that revealed an illegal U.S.-led proxy war that is being orchestrated between Russia and Ukraine. Bombshell, the Pentagon documents leak, reveals proof of an illegal proxy war. The FBI has arrested a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman in Massachusetts, suspected of being responsible for the leak of U.S. classified defense documents that laid bare military secrets, which appear to prove the U.S. is engaged in an illegal proxy war against Russia via Ukraine. The major takeaway from these leaks is that U.S. troops are already on the grounds right now, currently engaging Russia in an illegal proxy war, using Ukraine as the scapegoats for their attacks. And as it turns out, Putin wasn't even in the building at the time of these attacks. Why would Zelensky order a drone attack on a building in Moscow that Putin wasn't even in at the time? Are they really that incompetent, or are they being blamed for something they didn't do? We know the Russians use false flag attacks because they've been caught doing that before. One of the ways that Putin got support from the Russians to fight against Chechen separatists was to launch false flag attacks. The FSB, which is Russia's CIA, blew up apartment buildings and they blamed it on Chechnya. So it isn't exactly out of the ordinary for the Russians to have done this to themselves. But in this particular scenario, that may not be the case. The US and NATO also have their own history of carrying out false flag attacks. And they are the ones who actually gain to benefit from this, because they can now launch a humanitarian mission to save the world from nuclear annihilation. But beyond who did it, the facts of the matter today, my friends, are this. If this was a false flag orchestrated by the Russians, then the intention is obviously to escalate the war. If this was a false flag attack orchestrated by the US and or NATO, the obvious intention here is to escalate the war. And if Zelensky was crazy enough to have done this himself, then the obvious outcome of this is going to be an escalation of war. Either way, this is not looking good for anyone except for the US and NATO and their allies, who, as I said, may use this event as an excuse to launch a humanitarian mission in an effort to completely take over the region. Because let's face it, that has been their goal for decades, and now may be the opportunity for them to seize the moment. So when the mainstream media points the finger at either Ukraine for doing this, or Russia maybe for pulling off a false flag attack, let's not forget the question as to who benefits, because the answer, my friends, is the United States, and more accurately, criminal elements within the intelligence communities like the CIA. And of course, their friends at the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I got the sense from the beginning of this that it felt to me like it was a limited hangout. And I don't necessarily think that might be the case anymore, and I'll explain that. But just in case you're not familiar with what that is, this is just military jargon for a psychological operation wherein if you feel that you may be potentially getting exposed, someone's getting close to the truth. Let's say you're going to be exposed for an illegal proxy war. So the general tactic when you're faced with this scenario in psychological operations is to carry out what's called a limited hangout, where you voluntarily, purposefully release damaging information about yourself, but key elements are left out. The very key elements that would expose your war crimes are left out. And what happens is the general population, the media, news pundits around the world, journalists, focus on the initial damaging evidence and completely all the while being distracted from the real crux of the matter, the real truth. So I started thinking that...
Distractions.
What I'm about to show you is arguably the biggest story in the world right now, in my opinion, but it's being totally ignored by the mainstream media. Of course it is. They don't want you to know about it because it will upend the global world order. I'm going to show you all of the new data and the info in a minute. But first, the U.S. just announced they're getting ready for war with China and Russia simultaneously, because we can't just do one without the other, right? See, this is what happens when people start to lose power. They get very dangerous, and the U.S. is quickly losing power. This week, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin announced their new 2024 military budget, which aims directly at China. And get this is unbelievable. It includes a 40% increase in spending to attack China. The Pentagon recently said China is, quote, the most comprehensive and serious challenge to the U.S. national security strategy. So the U.S. national security is under attack because China is becoming an economic superpower. They want you to believe that your house and your backyard are going to have Chinese soldiers in it very soon. This is how they will scare you. Better watch out if you're grilling in your backyard barbecue because some Chinese soldiers are about to steal your hot dogs. They really want you to be scared. They're doing a good job of it. They are hoping that you'll be scared, so you'll want to go to war to protect your hot dogs or your hamburgers. Even Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing this threat narrative, playing on the fear of a Chinese attack.
My view in terms of U.S. national security is that our number one threat by far is China and the CCP. They're strong militarily, they're strong economically, they've got the largest industrial base in human history, and they have ambitions.
So everyone is on board with this threat, and we need to spend billions more in this new budget to protect you. That's what they're telling you. They're calling it their Pacific Deterrence Initiative. That's the name of it. Deterrence. That's a good one. We're going to deter China and Russia by provoking them in their freaking backyards. The United States...
That's why your news broadcasters like Fox and MSNBC, NBC, CBS, Morning Joe, CNN, you get the drift. That's why they're so consumed with these, these, as they say in the social media world, clickbait topics that they put forth. You know, like Donald Trump being brought up on charges, or an ex-president, now something that's unprecedented, that you see that a president be brought up on charges, you know, ex or sitting president. You know, it's just, they always skirt and flirt with that, but that's never been something that they've, you know, that has come to fruition. So you have to ask yourself, why now? There's been a whole lot of these mass, quote-unquote, mass shootings here locally and nationwide. You know, this is, there's a lot of, you know, just a lot of killing across the board. And then they're making a big deal about formerly Prince Charles, now King Charles ceremony, making a big deal about that, you know. You got the whole world, so, you know, quote unquote, tuning into that. But in the meanwhile, you know, NATO and its allies, mainly Babylon the Great, a.k.a. otherwise known as America, and Canada, are pulling these slick missions, you know what I'm talking about, as far as provoking these other nations, you know what I'm saying, to doing something that they can exploit by way of their media. Oh, see, they doing this, they doing that. But it's just like that journalist or that this guy was saying, you know, hey, once you start losing power, man, these people just start doing anything, you know, it's by any means necessary. They feel that they have to do whatever's necessary to regain control. You know, they grip back on the world by and large, because the United States is losing her grip as the world's dominant power. So, you know, they have a bunch of distractions and they're desperate. So we're in those times, you know, where things are going to get sped up. Or they're going to get sped up. This is Revelations 12:12, and it reads, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time." This rulership, this particular rulership that we live under, being ruled by Esau Edom, pursuant to Second Esdras. We're in that time. The Lord is telling them to rejoice. Rejoice. Be merry. Be glad. You know. Because your time is short and it's just about over. Well, the sand in the hourglass is about to ran all the way out. This is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21, and it reads, Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom. Edom represents these so-called white folks, whose forefathers Esau. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. And you can liken Uz unto America. And it reads, The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. And they're drunk on the power that they used to wield. They used to be able to, by way of this reserve currency. They're losing their grip on power, man. These other countries are opting out, by way of BRICS. We know that the elites own both sides of the chess game, but we see that this whole America is losing its grip, and all the little schemish and things and that of overthrowing governments and economic hitmen and funding both sides of of wars in different countries. Funding the rebels, financing the dope trade. All these things come to fruition, man. These things are just a Google search away, and you'll find the implication of your so-called government has had a hand in all the dirty tricks and dirty deeds of the world. And they like to label it as conspiracy now, but nevertheless, how many conspiracies do this government has to be implicated in for you to realize that you are living in a filthy and a lying, slanderous, murderous government, man? That's because they're caught in all types of conspiracies. Of course they're going to label that as such because they get control of the narrative by writing in such things. Conspiracy. But ask yourself, how many conspiracies do you have to be caught up in and standing before a judge in a courtroom before they say, they make this connection. Although these are so-called conspiracies, you seem to be caught up in all of them. How is that possible? There has to be some truth to it. That's basically the point of it all. Verse 22, it says, the punishment of thy iniquities, all the BS that's been pushed by the United States and its cronies. It says, the punishment of thy iniquities is accomplished. You have served your purpose. You so-called white folks, you wicked, you have served your purpose. We have been punished. The Lord has used you for a whipping stick. He's used you for a sword to punish us, all of the above. Now your time is up. And you're going to go out kicking and screaming. And guess what? The Lord wouldn't have it any other way. It says, the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. The punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. Hey, and that's going back into us. For our sins, our transgressions of the law, our disobedience. We're at the end of this. It says, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thy iniquities. O daughter of Edom, he will discover thy sins. It's your turn now. It's your turn. It is your turn. Let's see. Let's see what it is. I think it is. Let's see. I think it's this one here. Let's see. This is Ecclesiastes, like it. 7 and And I'm straight to the point. Verse 8. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud of spirit. So the suffering in the spirit is better than that proud spirit, which these Edomites exude. They exude proudness, man. You know, as they're ordinary citizens, they're six-pack Joes, as we like to call them, you know. Their Karens and their male Karens are seeing that society is going down the drain, and they're losing their white privilege. They're getting worse and worse as far as they're hiding their hatred for you. You got more incidents of them calling the police on you for little minuscule things, you know. Little girl trying to sell bottles of water, you barbecuing in a public park or something, you know. Jake pulling up in front of his own house or something, you know. And these male Karens and female Karens, so-called white folks, calling the police on them, just having a hissy fit. So we're at the end of this. We're at the end, and it's time for them, you know. It's time for them to pick up that mantle. And the Lord said that too, I think. Let's see. They're going to put these curses on your enemies. Check this out. This is, matter of fact, let's see what curses are there. Well, yeah, real quick. Lord said we put these curses on them. And you have a whole slew of curses, man. Check this out. Consequences for disobedience. And this is for the nation of Israel. Used to call blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. From 15, cursed shall thou be in the city, and cursed shall thou be in the field. It don't matter whether you're in the world or you in the suburbs, you're in the country, or you always going to be in the worst conditions. You're going to have the worst living conditions. You're going to have the worst of it all. You know, that Constitution says what it is. It says equal but, it says separate but equal. Separate but equal. It says that in that Constitution. Mind you, that's not speaking of you, because when that paper was written up, it was written first, the Articles of Confederation, I believe, and then that was destroyed in the city of Philadelphia, and then they came up with the Constitution. When these documents were written, you, mind you, were still in hard bondage, hardcore slavery. These articles were written up in the 1700s. Now, if you want to consider the 1865 proclamation of the Emancipation Proclamation, so-called signed by the 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, if you want to consider that, I laugh at that, as you being freed, that was damn near 100-year difference. Now, you know, from the Constitution being written up to you being free, so-called free. So when they wrote up the Constitution and they said separate but equal, that was just a typo, something for, you know, it wasn't nothing for you to be glorified in. Because you was written up as 3/5 of a human being. Now, back to the point. All these curses the Lord said he would put on them, pursuant Deuteronomy 37. And it's the better the end of a thing than it is the beginning thereof. And going back to Lamentations 4:21, the cup shall be passed on to them. And what cup? The cup of slavery. Yes, they're going into slavery. So all this showing you different clips, you know, just setting up the stage to show you, those are distractions. Because there's real serious things that are going on in the background that they don't want to bring to the forefront. They want to keep you and your eyes and your attention full of eye candy. Stuff you can go to the job and talk about. You know, Republican, Democrat type of arguments, talking points. Anyway, let's read a few of these curses, and then we're going to get Deuteronomy 30. It says, cursed shall thou be in the city, cursed shall thou be in the field, cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. You know, we couldn't get nothing. I mean, anything that we started at, you know, you had Black Wall Street, you had Tulsa, Oklahoma, you had Rosewood, you had plenty of these little towns and whatnot where Jake had started. Was doing pretty decent, you know. But the Lord said, curse all that, you know. Now you buying outdated damn sodas and energy drinks from these Chinese and ragheads, these Arabs and whatnot. You buying fake ass clothes, linen from these damn Africans and whatnot. You have to buy your groceries, this genetically modified, defiled foods from Esau and all his cronies and whatnot. So you're not able to keep anything. And given the what are those executive orders, it's illegal to even grow your own food. Don't believe me? It'll be enforced sooner than later. But anyway, these are some of the curses. Yeah, these are just some of the curses. Yep. It says right here in 20, it says, the Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke, and all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doing, whereby thou hast forsaken me. As there's nothing you're gonna get started that you're gonna accomplish, that you're gonna fulfill without you doing something wicked. That goes back to these damn these athletes and these well-to-do jakes. As they get higher and higher in the ranks of riches and material wealth and whatnot, they have to, have to do monstrous things like, sacrificing loved ones and participating in orgies, same-sex orgies and all kind of things, man. You know what I'm saying? Just demean yourself. And the whole while, being videotaped and, evidence being kept back, to keep you in line, all kind of stuff, man. Mind you, when we get the kingdom, there'll be none of that. Anyway, I just wanted to read a few of those curses. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30 and 7, and it reads, this is Deuteronomy chapter 30 and 7, it reads, and the Lord, Yahweh, thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee. And you can read Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 15 to 68, and you'll see all the curses, the things that we have endured. These people are going to endure a lot of those same curses, you know what I'm saying? Double time, for all of the wickedness that they push. They've displayed. It's lucky. But yeah, it's like the scriptures say, man, it's better the end of a thing than the beginning of, And these people, these so-called white folks, they should go ahead and rejoice, man, and just enjoy themselves, Go out and buy a truck, buy a boat, Go out there and sport fish, catch you some bass and take pictures with it and throw it back in the river or the lake or wherever, just enjoy yourself, This goes out to you so-called white folk. But you jakes, you need to wake up. So these things that you're seeing, man, they are distractions. You're in the time where you need to be waking up. Back to you jakes, yeah, it's high time that you wake up. Time for you to wake up. Knowing that you're in that time, we're in those last days, Wake up. This is Romans 13 and 11. It reads, and that knowing the time, that now is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. And now, mind you, only 1/3 of the nation of Israel is going to receive this. You know, so, you know, to the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, hold fast to what you have, you know. I'm gonna end it with this. Hold fast to what you have. You know, because the Lord is on his way back. The Lord is on his way back. It says, this is Revelations 2:25, and it reads, but that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. And you see the words are written in red. So our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai, the only begotten Son of the Most High Yahweh, he's on his way back. And it says again, but that which ye have already, this truth, this faith, the gift, the belief, you understand? Rehearsing the righteous acts, you know. Hold fast to that. Hold that. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. Verse 26, and check this out. This is what he's going to, you know, you're going to be rewarded. It says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. Over the nations. These folks are finna go down sooner than later. So, of course, they're going to get, you know, they're getting up, they're getting antsy, and they're doing things, and they're throwing out the distractions and whatnot, and not leading you on to what's actually happening. But, Lord willing, the men of the Lord, beginning with the apostle elders on down to brothers such as myself, we're gonna blow that horn. We're gonna blow that horn. It says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. 27, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father. So, man, just hold fast. Let that song go. Hold on, I'm coming. Lord, when it was edifying, I'm going to close out by giving infinite honor and praise to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostle elders, great millstone. Shalom.